Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Tonight's session will focus on how to search and evaluate medical publications. Our speakers tonight are Dr. Carmen McMullen and Melinda Davies. Dr. McMullen is a medical anthropologist who studies healthcare delivery, cancer, and mixed methods evaluation of healthcare interventions. She provides expertise in qualitative and ethnographic research methods, such as focus groups, interviews, and fieldwork. She also facilitates stakeholder engagement in research by leading advisory boards and training patient advocates. She has received numerous grants from the NIH and PCORI. Melinda Davies is a medical librarian with 14 years experience in medical research. She is a research informationist at the Center for Health Research in Portland, Oregon. Ms. Davies is committed to excellence in advanced literature search and serves in leadership roles at the Medical Library Association. Thank you both for being here, and I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much for inviting us to come and talk to you today. Mel is going to do most of the presentation today because the topic is her area of expertise. But I'm thrilled to be invited to join you. With that being said, I am happy to have Mel come and present to you all today. She is hoping that this is an interactive session, so please don't be shy. If you have questions, I can take a look at the chat, Mel, for you if you'd like. I can have that open. So if we lose track of anybody in the chat, I'll pipe up and tell you. But please don't be shy to raise your hand, use the chat, speak up. If you have questions, the most important thing is that you all understand what Mel is sharing with you today. So if there's anything confusing, please do feel free to raise any questions you may have. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Mel, to teach us how to look things up.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hi. Okay, so you guys are kind of the guinea pig for this session. So my apologies if it's a little bit rough, but I'm hoping we can get a lot done. Okay, so this is medical literature search skills. A bit about my background. I'm a librarian. You can tell by the cardigan. I have an MA in Information Studies that I completed at the University of Brighton in the UK. I'm originally from the Ventura Oxnard area in California, and I lived in the UK for 14 years. Just after my 19th birthday is when I moved there. And then I came back to California and then up to Oregon. So I started working, like my first proper library job was at a really large university library over there that was attached to a medical school. And then I got to work at a really large medical library over there that supported hospital care and primary care. We supported a cancer center, a level 3 NICU, level 3 trauma, public health, we did all of it. We did all sorts. And that's where I got to really learn how to do literature searching and really develop my love for search. And I still love it. And I refined my search skills working for a software company in California that was primarily contracted by pharmas and guideline developers to do evidence synthesis. So if you don't know what that is, I'll touch on that later. And then I came to the Center for Health Research in January 2019, where the focus here is on public health and preventive health. So in this session, we're going to be working out what you're looking for, identifying where to look, exploring some search techniques, and exploring what to do when you find what you're looking for. The reason I start out with working out what you're looking for is it's about identifying like what it is you're looking for and crafting an answerable question based on your information need. And an important step is like just acknowledging and recognizing that you have an information need And for information, I use that term to kind of represent like the little knowledge nuggets or maybe a big knowledge nugget that you need. And it can feel fuzzy and undefined, and putting some effort into defining your question will improve your ability to answer it. It can help to think about what your answer might look like. Is it going to be a report from a clinical trial, or like just a single fact, or maybe a personal narrative? I had a little think about what types of needs patient advisors to research might have. So you might need like a general overview about a disease or condition. For example, we're preparing a protocol about ventricular septal defects. What are they? How do they happen? How are they diagnosed? What treatments are available? Or perhaps I've heard left-handedness is associated with early mortality. Is that true? If it's true, can anything be done? How does left-handedness even happen? I have a personal interest in that question because I'm left-handed and a little bit accident prone. So I'd like to know the answer to that. You might have a more specific question about the some aspect of the research protocol. For example, I want to know if anyone has done research like this already, so you're not repeating research that's already happened. Or you might have a question about the methods. Can we improve the diversity of participants? A question about some clinical aspect. For example, how long does catheter repair take for VSD patients? Which might influence decisions about what sort of services you provide for patients and carers while they're waiting for the repair to happen. Or maybe there's something else. So I'm open to hearing like if anyone else has like had any information needs or related to this or any other healthcare questions that they've been kind of not really sure what to do with.
So Mel, I wanted to pitch in really quick, because perhaps what we could do is use our list of top 3 topics that we have as a group brainstormed on, and we actually did this in the NGT exercise with Dr. Cohen-Holm, where we got a list of topics, and these 3 topics are sort of like the group's most interest, I would say. Perhaps we could use this as an example. If you want to use all the top 3 or just top 1, maybe we can use that as an example for the whole activity, and we can work around that one, right? So perhaps dissect it or however you want to do the activity, if that's okay with you.
Okay, well, I mean, I just was curious to get people thinking about what sort of questions. So you guys have already done a lot of work, then it sounds like, in starting to define like where your information needs might be. That's really good.
Perhaps the project's research interests, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, just the topics themselves. Yeah.
Just the topics. Well, it often starts with that sort of top level broad question, and then you kind of work down into more specific questions. A lot of people, though, I think, skip thinking about what their questions might be and want to just dig in, and it can lead you into a lot of meandering. And I have some examples that like kind of will help define some of the concepts. So hopefully I won't be too off, but
Mel, there is some 2 comments in the chat. One is how do you estimate how long it'll take to come to how long it'll take you to do the research to answer a question. And then Christopher put the one of the project topics down, which was treatment options for mental health in the congenital heart disease community.
Yeah. So so treatment options for mental health is like a very broad, you've got a lot going on in that question. Yeah. That's good. And as for how much research is required, so in terms of how much search, you're going to need to do, or how many papers you're going to need to read. Ooh, that's a really tough one. And there is not a single answer that will, for that question. For some questions, we look to find absolutely everything. And that's where you get like somebody like me really going and digging deep into finding every piece of research or every publication that's been put out there. But we'll talk about, how you can start to identify if what you're looking at really is good enough for you. Okay, so I'm gonna move on now to the next bit. So there are different types of reports for different questions. That question of like, what is a ventricular septal defect? You might want just a summary for that, or there's decision tools. A decision tool is like a product. It's sort of similar to an encyclopedia, but it's very targeted at healthcare professionals treating patients. So you might hear healthcare professionals talk about a tool called UpToDate. That's a decision tool, or a point of care tool, sometimes they're called, but it's basically just an encyclopedia. And then you have actual like encyclopedias. And I think everybody's probably pretty familiar with Wikipedia. So I'm going to just hop over there and talk about a Wikipedia entry just for a minute so we can see. Let's try this. Monkeypox, something that's been in the news lately. And somewhere towards the top, we're going to have a Google search, we'll get the monkeypox Wikipedia entry. So a couple things about Wikipedia. It's community sourced. Anyone can set up an account and edit, and edits can be corrected from within the community, although you have, certain groups of people who have different levels of control within the articles, but it's still essentially a community resource tool. And pages can be locked if they're being targeted for misinformation. And there's also a few other things you can do to protect yourself from misinformation within Wikipedia. It's very dynamic as well. I have to say that when I looked at this on Friday, there was no article for the 2022 monkeypox outbreak, but now here it is. It exists. It's appeared within 4 days for everyone to be able to access and share and get information on this, on the outbreak. So when looking at Wikipedia, you can see here there's a tab, right? You can see my screen still. There's a tab for talk, and that has where the editors or the creators of the page talk about what should go into the page or what shouldn't go into the page and why they don't think or do think something belongs within a page. There's also a tab for view history here, where you can see really detailed history of each edit that's happened to a page. So we can see, exactly what's been going on with this page since it was created. And going back to the article, what you're also looking for is links out to other pages. These are the highlighted links that tell you, connect the whole concept to lots of different concepts. And the little numbers, which are towards the references, direct you towards references or citations. Sometimes you'll just see the square brackets that say like citation needed. But otherwise, you can go then and click through and find these sources and read them for yourself. Down the bottom of the page, you have the list of the references. There's a bunch of references for this page, 74. And you also have the links out to external sites. The community, the Wikipedia community does try to focus on having like authoritative external sites. So you'll see the CDC and the WHO. And just keeping an eye for those sorts of clues will kind of give you some protection against misinformation when you're on this page, when you're on any community page, really. All right, I'm going to go back to my my presentation. So another type of report for information might be a trial or a study. And thinking about what the best study design to answer your question will help you hone in on the right paper for your question. So if you're thinking about the efficacy of, say, the efficacy of treatments of mental health therapies for the congenital heart disease community, if it's an efficacy question, you're probably looking for an RCT, and you can bring that into your search query to help you find those types of studies. If you're looking for something that's qualitative, maybe about the participant point of view, or gives you more information about the participant experience or somebody who, within the community's experience, you're going to look for a qualitative study. We also, RCT is a randomized control trial. I know you guys have been getting some, as part of your curriculum, some training on different types of studies. So I might have jumped the gun there, and I apologize. So reviews or systematic reviews are another type of reports. They're similar to like the summaries. It's where a lot of things are brought together. A lot of research reports are brought together into one to answer a question. But for a review or a systematic review, it's a really narrow, specific question. So if somebody brought together all of the RCTs on the efficacy of a mental health intervention, say counseling or CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, you have you can make a more powerful statement because you have triangulated like different population groups, different studies are situated in different areas, and each study has whatever, say 500 patients. If you find 10 studies, you have a huge amount of patients that you can then include in a review, and you bring all the data together and you synthesize it all together into one analysis. And then there's the personal narratives that you could find like on social media. So you can say a lot in 280 characters, like on Twitter, for example, or patients share their experiences in Reddit threads. In that, it's good to look for first-person accounts, take everything kind of with a grain of salt, aim to capture multiple accounts, and you can continue to seek out evidence to support claims, whatever you're seeing. So if you're seeing somebody making health claims in Reddit, try to avoid the my brother's friend's cousin type reports and look for people talking really about their own experience. And if they're making health claims, follow up, take a look and see what you can find to support the claim in terms of actual research evidence. I saw that PCOPs might be part of your curriculum as well. So maybe have you guys talked about that yet as part of it? Yeah, okay. So in the PCOP scheme, that's usually used for like taking a clinical situation and developing like a study to help answer a clinical question. We also use it in search, but we primarily just use the P and the I, or the population and intervention aspects in search. And it helps us develop our terms and map the relationships between our terms, our search terms. It breaks it up into the components that are the question. The other aspects, the comparator outcome, timing, setting, they can add either a lot of confusion to a search, or outcomes are often not represented in the main search fields that we would be interested in. I mean, you can expect a cancer study would provide overall survival as like an outcome of the study, but smaller outcomes tend to kind of be hidden in the full text of a paper. So they're not great for search. So the population and intervention. So in this question about, improving the diversity of patients or participants in a study, in using the PICO scheme, we would break that up as ventricular septal defect patients receiving catheter surgery from underrepresented backgrounds. And the intervention of interest would be trial recruitment techniques. And you might think specifically about certain techniques, or you might just try the term recruitment as part of your search. Is there any questions so far on what I've covered so far?
Are folks familiar with PICOs? With what Mel's talking about?
Yeah.
I can see a few of you nodding. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good.
So I'm going to talk a bit now about exploring some search techniques, identifying where to look. You can use Google and other search engines. I think everybody's familiar with Google, hopefully, possibly, probably. Libraries, including academic and medical libraries, biomedical databases like PubMed, which I'll get into, and online forums, social media, and blogs for the patient experience. I've already kind of touched on that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Google for you guys as well, and how just some little tips there. Okay, so Google it's a semantic search. You ask a question and the system will interpret your question. It kind of makes up its mind about what it thinks you're asking. And I think it tends to be pretty good at that most of the time. Most types of questions, it's pretty good. In biomedical databases, so like PubMed, we ask it to not do any interpretation, although the new version of PubMed does. But generally, when we are talking to a biomedical database, we're asking it something and we're saying, don't think about this, just do what I say. Google is the opposite. It's going to interpret your question. Google is a private company. It's proprietary code. They have the ability to change whatever they do, whenever they want, with little oversight from the public. So PubMed is created further up the chain. It's under the National Institute of Health. It's a public offering. Google is a commercial organization. And I know everyone uses Google, so I just want to highlight a few things on there. So if I run a search for Google search for ventricular septal defects. Okay, this is where you can kind of get these overview. So Google has the snippets here, or here, you can see it. And it has what they call the knowledge panel, which is over here. The snippets, you can work out what the source for that is by looking at the URL information. And down here in the knowledge panel, it's at the bottom of the knowledge panel where they're deriving this information. And it's supposed to help you get a quick answer to your question. They started really doing this a few years ago, and the intent was to improve the user experience so that people can be quick with it. As you scroll through the rest of the results, the thing you want to keep your eye out for is that URL data, or the www, who's created this site, and that can help you work out what's worth clicking on and clicking through. So here we have information that this is from heart.org, which is the American Heart Association. And this, I'm going to open this in a new tab, is that little sort of summary, a clinical summary or a summary about this condition. When you're looking at a website as well, I'd always recommend looking at if there's an about us information, especially health sites, so you can kind of work out who's creating this, and always ask why are they doing this? What is their motivation? I think that the American Heart Association has pretty benevolent or benign reasons. They're not trying to sell you anything. Medline Plus is another tool that you can often rank high in the Google ranking, and that's again, it's another clinical summary. somewhere up the line, it's created by the National Institute of Health. And again, it's public. So you can kind of take these as being like pretty okay and pretty safe. But they can be a little bit light. You know, they're pretty general and not a lot of meat there. I would really recommend, like, as you do search, to have like either a Google Doc open using, like, you know, the Google Documents tool, or have a Word document or some sort of drop space that you can like copy what, you know, information and paste it in. As you search, you'll want to copy out like maybe what the URL was and paste that in so that you can find that later, go back and find it later, or you just have a record. Also, I recommend pooling together all of the things that you want to read and then going back and reading that later so that you don't get too sidetracked by coming across something cool or interesting and getting distracted, which everyone does. Another Google tip I have for you is, if you're wanting to find information about how to use a information tool, or how to get to grips with like what is out there on certain topics, if you use the term LibGuide in your search, you'll get results that will link to guides created by library staff or library workers that will provide little summaries of the types of resources on any topic. So if I want to learn how to get a little bit better at searching Google, you can do Google search or Google searching. Let's try that. Well, let's try Google search. Let's keep it simple. And then the term LibGuide, LibGuide. And it's brought up a few results here. These, and you can see these are all like from academic institutions. This is from the University of Pittsburgh. Here we have University of Texas. Let's have a look at this one. And what it is a like listing of, or guide for how to get more when you're searching Google. This one handily has a bunch of the operator symbols. So these are other cheats that you can use when you're searching Google. Like, you can do a site search. If you know you want to just search for something that's on, say, a .gov or a government website, you can do site.gov, and everything that else is in your search will bring back .gov, something from a government website. File type, if you know you want it to show you just PDFs or Word documents or whatever, you can include a file type. The quotes are really good. Double quotes are good. You can use those in a lot of different search interfaces for phrases. So we'll get back to that as well. We'll do a bit more phrase searching in a minute. Okay, so that's Google. Before I talk about PubMed, I have a little activity maybe we could do. So I'm going to plug this into the chat, and hopefully others can come and meet me on a Jamboard, which is a Google tool. We'll do a synonym activity. Okay, I see a bunch of people here now. So synonyms you can use synonyms in Google searching and biomedical database searching. And basically a synonym, just in case you're not familiar with the term, is when two terms have a similar meaning. You can say like a black and ebony are like synonyms because they tell you the same thing, or they represent the same concept. So for this, that question of that left-handedness and mortality, if we start a little sticky note, so just to clarify where that is. If you fill in a sticky note, the sticky notes are over here on the left side of the screen. We'll use yellow for left-handed, and save that. And let's have a green for anything, for any synonyms for mortality, and see what synonyms others come up with. If anybody would like to have a go. If you are not able to access this and you want to put something in the chat as well, I can add it to our Jamboard. Lefty, yeah. Ooh. Okay. Let's go over here. Yes. Yes, you guys are getting it totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. How about if I go back to the yellow and do Southpaw?
Elbows me at dinner. I'm left-handed. That's what people used to always get mad at me about.
Oh, Harmeet, you're left-handed. Oh.
Yes, we had dinners, and I always got put on the end of the table on the left-hand side when I was growing up.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Oh, life expectancy. That's a good one for search. Okay, I love these. Not the right hand. This is actually not the right hand is kind of a really important concept, because with handedness, you are usually talking about like one or the other. Okay, some people are ambidextrous. Some people maybe do not have hands. But for the most part, it's a pretty binary thing. Yeah, needs to be considered wrong. Yeah, okay, I love this. You guys did great. Sinister! Okay, this one goes over here, I think. Okay, so yeah, that's great. So we have right here, this is what I do all of the time. I start to just think about what are all the words that people are going to use to describe this concept. And in medicine, it can be surprisingly loosey-goosey with what people do. And I think as you work on this like mental health question, you'll find there's a lot of different ways that people describe even what might seem a very restricted concept. Okay. Field tags are, so each record in a database, like, you know, each bit of information within a database has multiple fields. And it's kind of like filling in a form, which we've all done, like we've all done our taxes or whatever. You fill in a form with specific places for specific info, like your name. Sometimes in a form, you'll have like your first name goes in one box and your last name goes in the next box. And then sometimes they'll flip it around on you. And if you have a name, say like Hope Ryan, then you'll forever receive mail that goes to Ryan Hope, because it just like the system isn't smart enough to acknowledge one is a first name and one is a surname. It's just how you filled it in. That's where it works. So each database has these types of things. Primarily, the ones that we use in search are the title, the abstract, which is a little blurb about what a journal article is about, and the keywords or the indexing words. There's a bunch of other fields. We won't worry about those too much. And then subject headings. So subject headings are like from a controlled vocabulary, controlled set of terms that a group has decided represents a concept within a database, for example. It's sort of similar to the yellow pages, which I don't know how good an example that is anymore because we don't really use the yellow pages anymore. But where if you wanted to get a haircut, you might look for a barber. And when you go to a barber in the yellow pages, you would be directed to hairdressers, because hairdressers would be the designated term for somebody who cuts hair. Or maybe you don't search for a barber, maybe you go to hairstylist. Well, that will direct you right back to the hairdressers, and that's where you'll see the whole list of hairdressers. In this video, Carrie talks about hashtags being a similar thing, but with subject headings, it's a little more controlled because there's actually a set group who decide what the term for a thing is going to be. So within PubMed, a group has decided that anytime there's a PubMed article about cancer, it's going to have the term neoplasm, not cancer. You may find cancer in there, but that's what they're deciding. So you have that as a tool to kind of put together with the title and the abstract. Somebody will read through and identify the subject heading for each and every article in PubMed. So yeah, so you have this set of tools to direct where you search in PubMed. So I'm going to hop over to PubMed now. And you can have a go as well if you want with this, but I'll just put this in here for you if you want to have a go, but I'm also going to just demonstrate like a little bit of PubMed searching. So PubMed is, sorry if I go back to that. It's a collection of journal articles published in biomedical and healthcare journals. A group within the PubMed organization have made a decision about which journals will be included in PubMed. So not every biomedical journal is in PubMed, but like a lot are, thousands. And there's, I don't know, a few millions of articles in there, but you know, we don't want to find all of them. We want to be able to just find the ones related to the topic of interest. So I had sent a thing ahead about learning how to do a login. You can see here I'm logged in. This is really useful if you're wanting to save as you search. So separate from your drop doc, you can also just save as you search within PubMed. I'm going to just run a little search for Homer Simpson, see what happens. Within PubMed, it's having a little think here. And it's found 20 results for Homer Simpson in PubMed. But it's telling me, so first off, I have my display set up through my login to highlight my search terms. I also like to set it to abstract. Best match, I have no opinions on that, but you might prefer to have most recent as your setting. And there's a bunch of information over here that you can kind of play around with if you want to refine your settings. So it's found the word Simpson. Somewhere else it's found in the record, it's found the word Homer, but they're not together. We want to find Homer Simpson together. So to do that, I'm going to use those quotation marks. And now we're getting the Homer Simpson effect. Well, I don't know if that's really about Homer Simpson, but it's a concept within PubMed, within the medical literature. And I'm going to open an article as well, or open a record as well. Yes, so PubMed is open to people who don't have academic library accounts. You don't need that. You can set up that account with just a Google email or a Google account. You don't need to be a member of an academic library, and everything, you can view everything. Let's see, hang on. I laid it out. You can view titles, abstract, and indexing information. That's for the entire collection, all free at the point of use. And you also can see some direct access to full text articles. So I'm going to talk you through that just real quickly. Let's see if I can find the one that I wanted now. Here. So I've clicked on that article. going back to the landing page for the search though, you can click on here, boxes, and you can see it's prompting me here already. Do I want to send this to somewhere or save it? Send to, you can create a bibliography within the PubMed system or a clipboard. A clipboard is like a temporary holding space, whereas your bibliography will store like in your account. Or to save, that will create a file that you can then deposit into some other space. You can save the file or deposit it into like a reference management system like EndNote, but I don't think you guys are going to necessarily be doing a lot of that. Okay, so now if I go into that article, just to talk about what you're seeing here. So you have the citation information. Where was this published and when? The DOI is like a permanent identifier for that article. It's a digital permanent thing. The title, the authors, you can expand to see where are these authors based. And then the abstract, like I said, it's a blurb. This is what's called a structured abstract. So they've broken up the different aspects of the research under headings of objective, design, setting, participant, main outcome measures, results. You also have some information down here for similar articles. So PubMed is like, oh, you like this, maybe you'll like all this stuff too. And then articles that have cited this paper and references. Not every record in PubMed has this much content. And then here are the mesh terms. So that's where I was talking about. That's the subject headings. Mesh is medical subject headings. That's what that means. And that's where somebody has identified what an article is about. So you can search these, the subject headings, and the title and abstract. Like that's generally what I search. Also, if you want to just like drop the information, another tool you can use is just to go in the site and grab that, and that has the information about the article. And then over here we have the full text link. So this has an open access link, and PMC, which is also a free or open access resource. I'm on my network, so it's telling me Kaiser also has some access to this, but that you probably won't have that information unless you're on a network. So open access, and then the free, and then I can click on that, and it's gonna hopefully eventually open the article.
So Mel, there's a question to clarify. Everyone can do what you're looking at right now. Anybody can go on PubMed. Anyone can create an account where you can save things to your bibliography. Where it gets tricky, where you're coming from, is what articles you can open up and read the whole article. Yeah. But many articles now, especially research that's funded by the NIH, requires people to put in a version of the article that everyone can see. Not always, and I bump into that too, even coming from Kaiser. I'll sometimes send Mel a request to buy an article for me, but many, many articles are available for free. So where Mel just clicked, where there was the PMC.
Yeah, it doesn't want to open.
It doesn't want to open for you.
It doesn't want to open right now.
But yes,
that's where
I
it's
think
handy
all
to
of
like
you,
save and then come back to that.
All of you can try and see a lot. There's a lot that you have access to, even just as a private, person not affiliated with an institution looking on PubMed, and that's part of the point of it.
Okay, so yeah, are there any other questions?
Could you show us how to get it to highlight the words again?
Well, that's all. So that's where I'm not sure I am going to be able to show you how to do that, because I did that about 20 years ago. No, I didn't do it that long ago, but it's here in if you're logged in and you go to your account settings, preferences. And I set my highlighting as gold. You can choose any color. It's amazing that I haven't chosen pink because I love pink, but I chose gold. Possibly because when I set this up, maybe they only had gold as an option. Yes. Yeah, you have to be logged in as well to get that highlighting to work.
Yeah, if you're going to use PubMed, it's really nice to sign up with an account because you can save your things there and it allows you to use it more fully. And Mel, you had instructions sent ahead about how to do that.
I did, yeah, but it can be resent as well. You also have the option to, so if I go to advanced, that's going to show me my search history and I can rerun that search. No, I need to click here and I can save this actual search as well. So I can create an alert. That's how you can save the search, and it can send you alerts, or you can save it to your workspace, but kind of behind the scenes there, and it will tell me I can go back to it anytime I want and just rerun that same search if I want to do that. And I recommend doing that too, especially if it's something you think you're going to be touching a lot. I have a few other search techniques that I'd like to talk about before we run out of time that I think will help you as you search. So I'm going to kind of scooch along. Boolean operators, nesting using parentheses, truncation or wildcards using asterisks or $signs, and adjacency or proximity, it's called. That's looking for concepts that are near to each other, asking, but not necessarily phrases. You can ask a database to do that. You can't use that in PubMed, so I'm not going to go into that because you can't do it there. But all these other tools you can, and they'll kind of refine the quality of your search. So Boolean operators, and, or, and not. Or is more. You use or to bring together synonymous concepts. So if we're talking about junk food, we'll say chips or cake or candy bars. Then I have the question, is a rice cake, because that's in our concept set, the word cake, is a rice cake junk food? You can make up your own mind about that, but I have an opinion too. So that allows us to bring them all together. The synonymous concepts like we did with the Jamboard, left and lefty and left-handed and sinister, or whatever you want to say. You use or for that. And is used to bring together concepts that must be included. So both sides of the and must be included. So if you say chocolate and peanut or peanut butter, that will retrieve Snickers, because that's got chocolate and peanuts, or Reese's Pieces, or Reese's peanut butter cups, because that also has peanut butter and chocolate. But you won't retrieve Reese's Pieces. You're excluding those because Reese's Pieces do not have chocolate, or Mounds have chocolate, but no peanut or peanut butter. So if you're wanting to retrieve Mounds, you won't until you also say you push that parentheses and add another or coconut. And then not is a concept that you use kind of with care to exclude results that have an unwanted concept. So every result that has that concept within it will be excluded. So if you were to say a rice cake is not junk food, do not bring me back rice cake, you say not rice, but that will exclude everything with rice in it, including your crackles and your crunches. So if you were wanting stuff about left-handedness, say, and you said not right-handed, I'm not interested in those right-handed people. If a study included left-handed and right-handed people in it, that would be excluded. Well, you may still want that study because that does include some left-handed people. So their experiences will be documented within that study. Parentheses or using nesting, like you use parentheses to nest or corral concepts together. So like I did with peanut butter, peanut or peanut butter. We've set them in a nice little nest for them to cozy up and stick together. Sometimes they're square brackets, or sometimes they're the nice rounded parentheses. It's sort of similar to algebra, like the system will manage everything that's within a nest first, and then it'll apply things that are outside the nest. the parts of the equation or the algorithm that are outside the nest. Okay. And then truncation. So this is where you chop a term down to pick up any variant endings. So if we were wanting something about nurses or nursing, but you just said NURS with an asterisk. Asterisk is the symbol in PubMed. In other databases, it's $signs. That will pick up nurse or nursing or nurse or nurses. If you did defect, asterisk, you would pick up defect or defects or defective or defector, all sorts. And this is not necessarily like a comprehensive list of every variant that this would pick up. These are just the ones that kind of like popped into my head as I was working on this. So it's a really powerful tool if you think that there's going to be a lot of different endings to a term. But you have to kind of be a little bit careful. Like if you did CARD asterisk because you were interested in something to do with the heart, cardiac, you'll pick up everything that has CARD, including if something is about a birthday card that has nothing to do with cardiac. So you might want to do CARDI. Well, I mean, in PubMed, you're probably pretty safe with Cardi. In Google, if you search Cardi, you're going to probably get stuff about Cardi B at the top. Yes. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to rush through. So this is my left-handed search. You can come back and look at that later. Save as you find. I haven't really touched on citation management tools, but there are tools that help you kind of corral your citations. But I would just stick with the Google Doc until you're finding that or a Word doc until you're finding that's too much. Citation chasing, that's where you can open up a relevant study and look at the bibliography and find more studies using what was in a bibliography. To access the full text. So as Carmit said, there's open access is an option. All publicly funded research should be publicly available, and it mostly is. You can plug a title into Google using the double quotes, and that can help you find a full text for a paper if PubMed isn't playing, or there's other browser plugins that you can use that will help you find that. You can try your public library. You may want to contact them first and ask, hey, can I get this article from this journal, medical journal? They might be able to help you. Library people are very nice and we want to help, I promise. Your academic or medical library. So a lot of academic or medical libraries have community or visitor access. That usually means you have to go on site and use a computer that's on site, but you can access the whole of their subscriptions that way. It's a little bit tedious though. Contacting the authors of a paper if you're really struggling. And then there's Sci-Hub. Sci-Hub is like a bit like Napster or Pirate Bay or those sorts of tools, not totally legal or legit, but a lot of resources are on there. A lot of journal articles are on there. I would not recommend ever uploading anything from that site, but or downloading anything into that site. But if you're really struggling, that exists. Sci-Hub exists. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't.
Thank you. That was a really informative session. So I appreciate that. It's going to be very helpful when we move forward with our research. Thanks for being here, and I hope everyone has a great night.